Welcome to Moss Marketing Mondays, aka the M3 Podcast. Brought to you by Moss Marketing Group, bringing you everything marketing every Monday. Stay tuned for marketing tips and tricks you can use today. The M3 Podcast, marketing knowledge to help you succeed. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the M3 Podcast. Today, I feel like we're doing a little bit of a throwback, having Tyler Thorne on again.
I'm stoked.
I feel like we had so much to go over the first time, and I also feel like the podcast has progressed so much from the first one that we want to have you on again, and also everything that we went over the first time performed phenomenally. So thank you for coming back on.
I'm here to boost ratings.
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 And we have Dre and Logan on also. I mean, we covered a lot of topics on the first podcast, and since then, you've also started your own podcast, correct?
Yeah, no, I have. A lot of insight from being a guest on your guys's. I actually, props to you guys too. Honestly, it's super cool to be here again. I've gotten a ton of feedback from the content you guys have put out on that podcast. Super well done. It's cool to see how you guys have done this super well and like super high level. I think a lot of people get in this space, like even myself, like I think totally a lot of people realize like what it takes to put this on and like how difficult it is to make this seamless and create the content that you guys create out of it. Like this is really high level stuff that you guys perform on. So it's been cool to see you guys develop it.
It's definitely been a lot of work, and it was a lot more work than I expected in the beginning. but it's also one of those things that I feel like it's a very new way of putting out content and very effective way of putting out content, and very much enjoy what comes out of it to the people that come on and also the people listening. And that's, I think, one of the reasons that we've done well is not so much us, but the guests that have came and their insights on business, on marketing, on everything else. And I think it's also progressed into a lot of other things. When we had it first, it was just business marketing, and we had these outlines of this is what it's going to look like. And then it's like, that's part of it, but it's also the story of how these people have, how you have done what you've done, and the progression in business, the outlook, that mindset. There's so many things that go with that I don't think there's a set word that we can put on what the podcast is about.
Dude, I think too many people get caught up in that too. And I like, obviously before we jumped on, we were talking about your guys' first intro and laughing about it. But dude, that's like the name of the game. Going in, it's like, okay, we have this framework, it's going to be great. And then all of a sudden you have stuff that hits and you realize, okay, we operate around this better. Our niche is actually this, our flow of conversation, our style, or whatever, our strategy is now this. It encompasses these things. But way too many people today are so concerned with what other people freaking think. Most people would put that out and they're just like, oh no, dude, we got to redo it. It's got to be perfect. We got to figure it out. And it's like, got to be this framework. It's like, dude, just go and make adjustments along the way.
Yeah, I think when you don't quit and you just keep going with it, a lot of people take that stuff and they don't learn from it. They just kind of whimper down and say, oh, well, it didn't work. Totally. You know, you got to take it and learn from it and change.
It was definitely hard. Like when we started this, I felt we talked about this yesterday. Tyler came to the office yesterday and we were hanging out, and
which you guys have a badass new spot. This is sick.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a little step up from the basement, the little bit.
Hey, the basement was rad.
The basement wasn't bad.
It was well done, but this is a cool pad.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't think many people knew when we were starting marketing that it was in the basement. It was always Dane's like, yeah, when you go out, just tell them when you get back to the office.
Yeah,
I'm like, for sure.
I don't want to tell people you're operating out of a basement.
Well, when you hear the term basement, you really don't think of something that's like what we had. Like,
true. The basement was not what most people.
Yeah,
it was legit.
Yeah. You could have said garage. Be like, hey, Amazon started to have a garage.
But it was one of those things that we start this podcast, and I mean, our plates were already full, and I'm like, yeah, we should throw more on our plates, and we're doing it after hours, like during the week, and just like the progression of it, we end up at 15 episodes, and we're seeing a little bit of traction on views and things like that. But I'm very much someone that sees those benchmarks via business money wise. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is a lot of money that we're pushing out that's not really coming back. And I talked to my girlfriend, I talked to Ricky, I kind of talked to everyone, and I'm like, we're just going to keep pushing forward though. Like, trust the process. And it was crazy when we hit that like 20 to 25, and this is like 29, 30. Like we've seen in the last few months where people are out of nowhere, it's starting to like catch this traction like really quickly. and it was going like this, and then all of a sudden it's like went straight up. Once again, it's due to the guests coming on, things like that, having the right people on, acquiring that audience and building. And it's just kind of crazy, the progression of seeing it over time.
Yeah, I think it comes with the consistency too.
Yes.
People kind of expect it now, and it's like a snowball. Once it gets rolling down the hill, it turns into something huge, and you can't stop it.
Yeah,
For sure.
What kind of traction? I know that your podcast, we were talking yesterday, a lot of your connections are West Coast.
Yeah.
You still have a large network here in Kansas City also.
Yeah. Decent.
But old Carney Mo.
I was gonna say nationwide. He's got a pretty it's a pretty big umbrella.
It is wild, how kind of like vast it gets as you start getting into the space and you start doing stuff. I think in business in general, and when you really go and you execute authentically and genuinely, you just anyone that's a real player like recognizes real people making real moves, really executing. Just from a conversation, you can tell like that dude's completely talking out of his ass, or hey, like I need to go spend some time with that guy.
Yeah. And I think that's the great thing that a podcast offers.
Totally.
Is that genuine, like, I want everyone to hear exactly how it is. This isn't scripted out. We don't have an hour worth of scripting written on the board over here that we're following the whole time. It's very authentic of what's coming out. I have no earthly idea where the podcast is normally going to go for an hour, but we're just going to see where it goes. But I like that now.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it leads to something that we're going to be talking about sales. We're going to be talking about all these different things with you. And I just know that progression or that where that's leading in that conversation is going to be something that brings value to someone listening. And it's in an authentic way too.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's why I enjoy podcasts so much, because it's like, dude, how often do you go follow these like huge gurus? And it's like, dude, a book, there's so much editing. There's so many things that are like dialed into an exact circumstance, but you get a really high level person and another really high level person in a room, and they're just going about it, communicating. You can tell they'll get into things that normally they wouldn't cover in maybe an offering that they give about whatever their product or service is, their expertise, because who they've built it for isn't maybe that high level of an audience. But the person sitting across from him is a super high level individual. So that conversation is going to go to places where you're like, wow, like, dude, I didn't even think that's like outside the scope of why I thought he was good at what he did, or what I thought it took for him to get there. Because they're not telling every aspect of their business when they deliver their deliverable.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. One of the things that we spoke about yesterday that I really want to go over on this podcast, and I think I always want everything that comes out to be something that is relative in today's space. And I think something that's happening a lot right now is this hearsay of the economical space. And we talked very much yesterday about people creating their own future. And that comes in two forefronts of good and bad. I am someone that I never look at the bad that's coming, or there's not bad coming. I never look at anything that way. I look as, I'm thankful to have today. I'm thankful to have tomorrow. I'm going to push forward 110%, and everything's just always worked out the way it should. Yeah. I'm not going to let somebody tell me like, hey, I mean, December is going to be the worst month you've ever seen in your life. Okay, you know what? I should probably like not hire someone else. I probably shouldn't sell any more accounts. I probably shouldn't do any of this stuff. I should probably back off all my marketing dollars. I should do all these things and go to this conservative like hibernation spot. And that's because someone else told me that. And then you create this future that wasn't the correct outcome because of what someone told you. And I think that's happening a lot in today's space. And we have it with clients that, hey, I talked to so-and-so that's a financial advisor, and they said that the economy is going to go down, so I should stop paying for all these things, and I should go to like, you should totally stop acquiring new business. You should totally stop doing all these things. And then all of a sudden, 5 months from now, they're like, well, I don't know why this stuff is all falling apart.
It's just because you laid down and took it. You know?
You're still paying your financial advisor, right? So they weren't affected.
Maybe you should stop paying them.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the overview of everything? I knew you would have a good idea on this.
Yeah, so this is something in kind of my podcast, right? It's all catered towards financial literacy and people developing and really being able to take care of things. Because I think this is probably the area where the everyday person, and honestly, even a lot of high level people, I educate a lot of my coworkers that are really high income people that have no freaking idea how like the economic machine really works. And so much, there's definitely some strategy in every situation, and depending on the type of business that you have and the things that you need to like reel back on and the things that you just need to double down on. As an entrepreneur like you guys, in these times, it's like licking my chops.
I'm ready.
Because if you've prepared for these moments as an entrepreneur, you recognize like, dude, there's about to be a ton of shit that goes on sale, like massively on sale. There's going to be a lot of opportunities, people who are super over leveraged that are going to let go of assets at, pennies on the dollar. And there's some huge opportunities to increase your net worth. And there's a lot of these different things. But the biggest issue, I think, and why there's so much like massive emotional fear that takes place when CNBC or CNN or Fox like puts out this like, oh, the world's gonna freaking fall apart. Well, dude, like, unfortunately, the Fed and the massive government, like, what they're doing and their concerns with the way that you look at the economy really has like so little to do with you as the everyday person. It's how are they going to create better tax revenues? Like, they're strategically putting out information, like, they're fear mongering, and especially with midterm elections coming up, like no matter what it is, dude, everybody's going to predict, you're going to hear the Fed, you're going to hear these things. We're going to raise rates this many basis points. Like we expect to get to here. It's going to get so bad, because when they know where they're actually going to go, then they get to be the hero when it doesn't go that far.
Yeah. Hey, it didn't go up 5 points, only went up 4.
Well, it was just like gas prices. Gas prices spiked to like $4.50, then dropped to $3. Everyone's like, oh my God, they went down. I'm like, do you not realize they just jumped a full $1? I'm like, that was the whole point of this.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's like manipulated behind the scenes on what they're trying to do as far as, where does inflation go versus unemployment and all these different things. But it's so interesting because a lot of that data doesn't really impact your everyday to-day life and your ability to go. Like, dude, yeah, if you work for the government, it also doesn't matter. Your 401k or your retirement funds might like for a period take a spin or a dip, or you might have some different influxes and things, but your ability to go create income is based on skills. And there's so many freaking opportunities right now to create income that I just don't think people get this fear. They're like, oh man, like I hear this macroeconomic data, but it's like, where does that even correlate to your business? And they don't even know what the macro stuff is about. Oh, the housing market's going to do this. Okay, cool. Like, what does it have to do with the home that you own and can afford right now?
And I think so many people, they will go to star chasing of connecting dots of how that comes into their business somehow. And they're like, well, I did all this math and I figured out that it's going to come and hit me directly. So I'm going to do all these things. And my deal is like, when you say you're licking your chops, like I am the same way, your market share becomes so much easier to go get. You all of a sudden right now, like COVID hits, and that's the other thing that I think is funny. People go through that, and now all of a sudden they're fearful of something else. I'm like, I feel like you just made it through probably one of the worst things that your business could hit, of them telling you you physically have to shut the doors. They told you had to shut the doors. You couldn't let people in. I go, now you're fearful of something, of saying, hey, the market might dip down a little bit. And you're putting your tail between your legs and running home. And COVID happens, you go into this spot that everyone jumps back in the pool. Every single person's in the pool, and now everyone's going to jump out. 95% of them are going to jump out just as fast as they jumped in and go back to the safe spot up there. That pool just became a lot easier to own with only 5% in there.
Well, totally. And this is something that I'm like really passionate about this, just from like where our nation sits and where people are able to provide for their families. They hear these news things, and I think a lot of business owners, right, they might have a small level business. They're really, really good at something. They have a really great product, a really great deliverable, a really great service, and they've made money doing that. But these people still are not financially literate. They still don't understand how they fit inside the like vast economic system. So they hear this stuff and they're just like, oh, panic. And they don't go research. They don't go learn. They don't go understand, like, hey, dude, I've got, cash on the books. Like, we're good. We're not just like accounting accounts receivable versus, payable. We've got cash. Like, we could ride this out. We're not, somebody that has huge credit lines. We're not extending. We're not looking for VC funding. Like, the interest rates actually don't correlate to my business at all. Does not matter. But they hear this stuff and it's just like, dude, a lack of pure financial literacy creates all this fear, even from people who are doing really well, just because they don't know anything other than what the news says. But the strategy that they're hoping that news plays into is not for you. It's not for us. It's for them. Like they're looking to tilt the scales in a way to create more tax revenue.
Yeah.
It's always about more tax revenue.
It's one of those things that we work with almost 90 companies now in Kansas City. We have all these different companies and different business models and everything like that. And since we have started, we don't really lose accounts. And we've lost like 3 accounts in like the last week. And it has strictly nothing to do with the way the marketing is operating, anything like that. Strictly out of fear factor of what's about to happen. And it was something that like I've been thinking about for a week. And it's just been something that I'm like, how are these people letting their future be dictated by something that hasn't happened yet? And they've got this, somebody has told them something and they have written it down as, I mean, that's written in stone. Like that's how it's going to be. And the sad thing is those people, what they're doing now, we're going to have a podcast here in 12 to 18 months. And I want to revisit where those 3 companies are. Because I feel like right now I can already tell you where they're going to be. And it's just sad to watch somebody with that mindset to just fall apart and just say, crumble down. Like, save yourself. I really want to tell these people, just save yourself the time. Just close up the doors. Go work for somebody. You don't have the mindset to go be an entrepreneur in today's world. When the times get hard, like, this should be the time that you're wanting to go capitalize. And I was listening to Ed Milet's podcast this week, and who was on it?
Dean Graziosi.
Yeah. He was talking about how it's, you have fight or flight, and that's what everyone always thinks about. And he goes, there's a third F. He goes, and it's freeze. Mm-hmm. He goes, that's what a lot of time people in these times, they freeze. Yeah. And he goes, your dollar becomes, it's not worth the same now. To where he goes, now you have to figure out a way. He goes, I've always seen a downturn to be pretty easy. He goes, I just figure out how to make 3 times as much money. And he goes, if you look at it like that, he goes, it's really not that hard. And I'm like, it sounds simple. Like most people are like,
make 3 times.
Most people are like, oh yeah, okay. But it's like, how do you go make 3 times the money? How do we put a plan in place to go make 3 times the money? Pulling back everything, firing employees, cutting marketing, doing everything opposite of growth is not the direction to go make 3 times the amount of money.
I think a lot of it does depend on your business for sure. Because you have to be very aware, you know, if you do see a trend coming that is going to impact your space, which I don't think very many people are actually very aware of, like what actually impacts their space. But if you do see that, I think there is a time where it's like taking those precautionary cuts and putting more cash on your books is definitely valuable. I mean, I was looking at some reports this morning. Some of like the 6 biggest companies in the S&P 500 right now, I think the smallest cash reserve, Google was the largest, had 182 billion cash.
Just a little bit.
Sitting on it. And so when you look at some of the best, most successful companies in the world, Facebook had like 62 billion. Apple had like another 42 billion. These companies are full of some of the best, like most savvy financial people in the world. They're super aware, okay, inflation spiking, all of this. So like cash is a really volatile asset, especially in the US dollar right now, right? What are they waiting for?
They're about to start investing.
No, they're about to start acquiring a shit ton of stuff. And that was like really the premise of the report behind the data, and whether that's true or not, like, I don't know, you don't go make all these assumptions or, you know, go place your day trade on that. Cause I don't know. Right. But it seems very apparent. Some of these companies are stocking up. Like, just to your point, Dean talks about it. It's like, dude, it's not necessarily that like up or down makes any difference. It's just knowing what rules you're playing by at the moment.
Yeah. And I think it's always keeping that mindset that you're not, I feel like when
there's always a way to win. There's always a way to win. And somebody's going to win, whether it's you or somebody else. You can say, oh man, the market killed me. It was like, dude, it's doing the same industry in mortgages. Killed it.
Yeah.
3X. Dude in real estate. Crushed it. Dude in security. Dude in solar. Dude in marketing. Like somebody's going to freaking take everything over, and you're gonna like tell all your friends, well, nah.
Well, damn, I was making an excuse, and these other guys became the biggest around.
Yeah.
And I feel like in all spaces that real estate, I really don't like talking to a lot of real estate agents on this stuff because a lot of them are like, well, like we're just really slow and everything. They're like, how's Madison doing? I'm like, she's pretty fucking busy. Like always, but she's still doing the same thing every day. And I'm like, don't ever let she's really kind of quit going to her office all the time. Cause she's like, I don't really want the negativity of these other agents, like about how shitty everything's going for them. Like, I don't want to hear it. So she just keeps plugging away at what she's doing. And it's crazy how when you don't let all those things affect you, it's a lot easier when everyone's like doing shitty. We're like, well, that's why I'm doing shitty too.
Yeah. I think the housing market's probably one that's most people do not understand. I get asked this all the time because I do a ton of real estate. It's mostly commercial and family development stuff. People always ask, oh, it's like now a good time to buy a house. I'm like, well, I mean, dude, what are you going to buy it for? I'm like, honestly, like, if you structure any deal, anytime, every time's a good time to buy a home or a property or investment.
Yep.
If it pencils.
If the numbers make sense, and that's the other thing that I think is funny where people are so terrified of rates right now. I don't think they're going to stay that way forever. They're going to come back down. You can, even if you're taking a rate that's higher than what you would want, you can refinance that house in a year, in 3 years, whatever. That rate isn't going to stay that high for 30 years.
That house is going to increase in value.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And I may be wrong.
It's tough. I mean, you can speculate on it, but it's like, dude, if you're going to do an investment and you pencil in and it's an income producing asset at the current rate that you're looking at, or you structure it that way so that it's going to cash flow and it's going to stabilize, and you realize like, I can create more income out of this 20 unit deal. Dude, I don't give a crap what the rate is today.
Yeah.
If it produces income today and the market tanks tomorrow, it doesn't matter because I can hold it through the swing. The flip side of that, and I think where most people ask the question, is not from an investor standpoint. It's like, in my personal home, is it a good or not good time to buy? I'm like, in your personal home, it doesn't even matter because you don't buy it to make money. You're paying the mortgage on your own. So if you like the house and you can afford it at the current rate,
buy that.
then do it because it's for your memories. It's for your family. Like, it's not a freaking investment anyway. It's a terrible investment.
Yeah. I think that comes along with, in my opinion, like big government, like you talk about trying to make more tax income. They don't want people to move, like to progress, into a high status of financial literacy or even status, They want people to stay
like people at the bottom
and at the poverty level to where they have control over them. They can control when they think this, when they think this.
We're going to get censored for this one.
Probably.
Hey, they said be a little more risque.
Well, just a bunch of little sheep.
Yeah.
They just got to herd us in what direction they want it.
There's with the new IRS announcement, I was looking over it and I was going through it with the accountants, and there's 87,000 new IRS, and it's supposed to be over 10 years or whatever. But a lot of people, they're like, oh, we're gonna go check millionaires. Well, like, dude, there's 1,000 billionaires in the United States. You know how many resources they have to put the expert team to play by the rules? Like, dude, you don't find anything on billionaires ever. No. That's why 51% of all audits last year in the United States were on people who made less than $75,000.
That's the person that they can go after. That it's a lot easier to go after that person because when they go speak to their attorney and their attorney says it's this much to fight it, like, I don't have that much operating capital to go fight that.
Well, dude, the thing is they don't even have an attorney.
Yeah.
If I'm making $50,000 and I did 5,000 stuff, like I shoot photos on the side, or I mow lawns on the side, or I'm a carpenter on the side, but that's not my main business. I take cash. Dude, why do you think they're tracking a Venmo transaction over $300? Yeah. Because if I've never ran a business, I'm a W-2 employee, but I have a little side hustle that I'm starting, I don't know how to structure that, and I don't know how to claim that. Well, dude, it's really easy to go peg that dude.
Yeah.
And they're just going to pay it because they don't even know where to go.
I got a deal in the mail, and normally I just get these. If I owe state or IRS or anything, I just write the checks, I put them back in, I send them out, and like, it is what it is. Like, I feel like that's money I guess I owe.
Dane's going to get a letter from me. It's going to say from my address, but it's going to be IRS, like Tyler Thorne stamp, and it's going to say IRS, like crossed it.
Crayon.
Yeah.
$100,000.
So I get this thing in the mail, and it's for like $2,800. And so I just write a check, throw it in the mail, send it out and everything. I'm talking to my CPA. I'm like, what was that for? And he's like, did you have an itemized list and everything? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I saw.
Here's the paper I had.
I kept all the paperwork they sent me on it. He like makes a phone call in like 2 seconds. He's like, can you guys send over itemized list for what this is for and everything? They're like, no, we don't have one on it. He goes, and it's against the law to send this out on something without an itemized list. They're like, okay, we'll refund it. We'll send it back. I'm like sitting there. I'm like,
You just hit me $2,900.
I was like, how's that work? He goes, you know how many of these they send out? He goes, everyone just pays them. I'm like, that's the craziest shit I've ever heard. And it's like, realistically, they're criminals for what they do. And they're the only people that nothing can be done about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the most interesting thing that I look at ever, because it's like when you go study business and you start to go learn, every time you guys put out a piece of content or any business owner puts out a deliverable, there's immediate feedback on, did this direct response marketing create revenue? Did this product sell? Did this marketing thing work? Did this reel clip? The government creates policy that's on tax dollars. They get to spend unlimitedly, but there's no feedback. It doesn't matter if it works or not. They just keep taxing. Mm-hmm. And like, that's the only way they take money. It doesn't matter. There's no product that's given back. It's not like, oh, we did the welfare program, but it generated positive income and it paid for itself. It's like, no, dude, whether it works or doesn't work, if it's shit, if it's not shit, they just keep taxing again to go pay for the next thing. It's the only business model or like thing in the world that it does not matter what the outcome is. They just keep spending.
Yeah. If you were a business, you would have been closed a long ass time ago.
Yeah, and that's why it continues
you go to the
suck.
bank and they'd be like, no, you're cut off.
Dude, yeah, but that's why nothing ever changes, because there is no repercussions.
Yeah.
Like in our businesses, if we did that and we continue to make terrible decisions with investors' monies, our own money, we'd be broke.
Yeah.
We'd go out.
Yeah.
Like you'd either fix it or you'd die.
I like come in, I'm like, hey, I think we need the whole podcast room like coated in gold. I think that's a great idea. Just get some more
Gold
money for it.
leaf.
Yeah, we need some more money for it. Get it happening.
Diamond plated mic.
Just gonna test it out, just to test it out, see how it performs.
Yeah, but it's like I just feel like they get to spend money it's monopoly money.
It's fake.
It's our money.
Think about if I came in tomorrow, I was like, hey, you know what? We get hire 87,000 more people. We go big time. You'd be like, no, we don't have the money to do that.
It doesn't even matter what's there. Like any of us, we go to the bank. Like you have to show some pro forma, some type of proof or suggested proof that this is going to create an opportunity that you're going to be able to cover this. Like especially in the multifamily space or commercial, they care a lot less about your personal finances and like how is this going to perform legitimately off historical data. Yeah. But it's like, dude, the government just goes, oh, like how many more trillions of dollars we need? Boom, print it. And all you other people, you're just gonna have to figure out how to pay for that, because everything's gonna go up. Because we print $6 trillion in the last 2 years.
We talked about on one of our last podcasts too, the student loan shit that's going down. Like there's so much of this stuff that I don't agree with it at all. I have student loans. And it's one of those things, I don't need them covered. Like when I signed that dotted line that I was going to pay for that, I'm paying for it. I understand that. It is what it is. But who's supposed to pay for all that?
I don't even know how student loans are legal.
I don't either.
Yeah.
That's the only loan. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you make any money, anything. There's like, what, you need $100,000 for this semester? Perfect. And great news is I'll give you $100,000 next semester, but your job you're going to get put in, you're only making $45,000. So you should be able to make, you should be paying on us for about 30 years.
So the thing that I don't get is we have lunch down here all the time, and there's these people out, I don't remember who they're with, and I'm not going to say, but they want donations for some like national charity or something. So the first time they approach us, they give us like a 15-minute sales pitch, and we're like, okay, yeah, we'll give like, $5-10, they want all of our information. So we start putting in our information and stuff. Then first you have to be 26 years old to donate, because that's what they've determined is the appropriate age for someone to know whether they can make a charitable contribution. So if someone has to be 26 to know that they can, to know if or if not, they can give $5 to a charity, how can an 18-year-old sign their name to get $100,000 in student loans?
It just baffles me that I get out of college, I could get a degree, I don't use it, and get into the workforce, get a job where I'm making a lot of money, I'm socking money away, get my credit phenomenal. I mean, A++ credit, money in the bank, doing everything that you're taught to do, saying, hey, that's what poster citizen's supposed to look like. You can go do whatever you want to do, blah, blah, blah. I leave the dealership and I'm like, I'm going to open a marketing company. I'm like, I would like a flexible line of credit to run on. They pretty much went, I got laughed at. I'm like a 800 credit score, money in the bank, got house with tons of equity on it, all this stuff. And they laugh at me like, you're not getting that. And they're like, there's not a bank in the world that touches you. Don't have a job. I'm like, well, yeah, no shit. I don't have a job. I'm like, I'm opening a company. What do you mean? And they're like, what does your tax statement look like? I'm like, I don't have one. I just opened it. I go, I'm willing to back it with money I have, but I still have house payments, bills, and stuff like that. But it's, at what point does somebody that's younger, that's coming up, get help from anyone besides just giving you money to go to college to put you in debt on something that doesn't pay for itself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take 2 years, go to school, pull out loans, start your company with that money. And then
they're going to give you $100,000 and they're going to keep giving it to you going through college. And then all of a sudden they're going to say, hey, you got 30 something years to pay it back. I go to a bank and say, hey, I need 150 grand for 2 years. And I actually have execution of how to pay it back monthly currently. And then they're like, no. I know you can pay it back right now, but that's not what we're looking for.
Well, it honestly does a lot of disservice. And this is why I think the first step of people going into the real world and having no idea about finances. Because dude, you're 18, you can go take this out. You don't have to weigh any risk. Because you don't even you can't even contemplate oh, this is a risk. My teachers told me, my parents told me. It's I've just been told my whole life, if I go to college, this is supposed to play out. But then even if they get a good job and then they still don't understand when they go to get their first home, their first car, why the bank won't lend at a certain rate to them. Because they don't understand that the bank, the only reason they give you the student loan money is because it's federally backed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When a bank does underwriting right now, if you want to go buy a home and you're a 1099 employee, dude, you have to have, they damn near take blood work.
Oh, it's
They want your profit a lot. They want everything. It's got to be so clean. It's got to be so perfect. They're only going to count probably a third of it anyway.
Yep.
And it's so crazy. I just had an employee who just got approved for a home, and it's they counted look, I literally have the pay stubs. I sent them to his lender. They're calling me, all this stuff, and they're like, yeah, we're only going to count a third of that because, we're just not super sure in a sales experience in this type of economy. And I was like, dude, are you kidding me? You guys are this tight on your underwriting here. This kid's in one of the most recession-proof sales industries, security never goes away.
Well, then they're hitting them up with PMI, and then it's hey, but you're going to pay us insurance on it because we don't know.
Yeah, but then the crazy thing is dude, he could literally go, same person, goes, I want to go back to school, 150 grand, boom, done.
Yeah.
No questions asked. These banks aren't stupid, and that's what I think people don't understand is they know that the government's going to back them out.
Yeah.
There's a bigger story at play of why those student loans exist, and it has nothing to do with education. It's not to help people go to school.
No.
It's the crazy thing too on the personal banking level. We went to buy a vehicle, and I'm very much a person that likes to sit down with the bank. And dealerships, if you go buy a vehicle through a dealership and you walk in and they pretty much factors 720 and above is A paper. So if you're 720, you're at 850, it's viewed the same. You're getting A paper rate. They're shooting you through a credit union. As long as you're within their zip code or their radius, auto approval, they're not stipping dealers. Dealers aren't looking for proof of income, proof of residence, all these other things. Here's your A paper rate, get it signed, roll. So I go to the bank and I was like, I'll just go do it with my banker and everything. So I walk in, I go over it all, and then she's like, well, they tell us we're not approved. I go, I haven't been not approved for anything. I was like, what do you mean? I go, I would love, we've done a lot of auto financing. I'd love to see where the issue is on this. I go, credit's not a problem. Money's not a problem. I go, job time's not a problem. I go, none of these things are an issue. And she's like, well, I don't know. It's underwriting. We just send it over to underwriting. I go, if I walked into a dealership, I would have been auto approved within seconds and not even have to mess with this. I go, you have 30 minutes to have an email over to me with an approval, or every dollar that we have in this bank and personal savings, business accounts, everything is gone. I go, I will be up here later today to pick up that check for everything out of this bank. I was driving home within 10 minutes. I had approval. I was like, why is that even a thing? I go, why is that something that someone even has to go through? I think the banking system, I think the student loan, I think the whole entire system is jacked.
Yeah. Well, student loans have been the best product ever created for banks. ever. Because, like, dude, if you're a bank, what's your product? What's your deliverable? Loans. But you can't just, like, lend money for no reason. There's got to be something to lend it for. Like, that's why home mortgages. Yeah. That's the whole reason the 2008 thing even existed, is because, like, dude, if I'm a mortgage lender, it's like, oh, dude, no job, no income, no nothing. Like, I'm not looking. Lend it. Boom. I get my commission check. We'll figure it out later.
We'll refi you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah. Well, that was like why, because lending was so crazy and loose. And now, like, dude, lending's crazy tight, but student loans is like the new housing crisis.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason. And all of the universities have figured out, they're like, okay, well, the banks will issue whatever because it has nothing to do with the person that's getting the loan. It has everything to do with the government policy in place is guaranteeing the loan.
Yeah.
Like, at some point, they're going to get that money. And the schools are like, okay, cool, sweet. Well, we'll raise tuition to $50K because we know the bank's going to write it no matter who this freaking kid is, where he's going, what's his degree, where he's going to go into. Like, these loans don't make sense. They're like phantom products for banks.
They don't need your credit. All they need is your name, your social, and if you're breathing.
Oh, yeah.
Good to go.
But it's like, dude, they're writing so much of this stuff. Like, and it's
I think
the best product ever for a bank, but it's got to come tumbling down at some point.
I think that, and we had somebody on our podcast, I 100% agree with them. And if the colleges had to co-sign against it, like, but realistically, they just let college, I feel like even 10, 15 years ago was a more prestigious thing to, like, get into, that it was like, there was more regulations. Now we know people we went to school with, they're like very, very, I want to be as nice as possible, but not very intelligent people that, like, you just show up at college and, like, it's like open floodgates. Anybody with a pulse, you can go to college now. And they're like, well, it's equal for everyone. But we were talking about how many student loans and the amount of student loan debt of people that don't even have degrees, that never even made it past freshman year.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think the older to get you more, a lot of people think that the world operates in, like, black and white, but there's a lot of gray. And so you see the initial attempt of, like, okay, why was this all created? And it was, I would like to believe that somebody in the line was like, oh, this is out of, like, let's give everybody an equal opportunity. The issue with that, though, was when you do that and you eliminate the barriers of entry of you either need scholarships or you have to work your ass off to get in.
Yeah.
You also eliminate what the barriers of entries cause and, like, what that validates to the degree. So now, because anybody can go and it means nothing, they're just going to approve you and you're going to get in and you can go to school and you can get the piece of paper. When an employer hires you, now all of these same people that are arguing, like, this is such a great thing, everybody can go to school now, they're also bitching about the fact that employers want experience. Because the degree isn't a differentiator. Because there was no barriers of entry to get it. So there's nothing special about your accomplishments there that they can look at and be like, because you have this, I know you either worked really hard to get the scholarships necessary and do the programs to get there, or you busted your ass and worked to pay for it along the way.
Yeah.
You get out of college and be like, hey, I got a degree. I got my bachelor's in XYZ. It says you need 5 years experience. How do you want me to get that? Because all the other 5 places I applied all said the same thing, but no one will hire me.
But yeah, people are paying more and more and more for this piece of paper. This is becoming less and less and less valuable. That
I couldn't tell you where my degree's actually at my house.
I will say because I pay $141 a month, I put it in a frame and it sits next to my desk. That's the only reason. But if I'm gonna pay my payment every month on it, I'm gonna put it up there. So
since I got out of college, you have like a 6-month defer date once you graduate. Right after that, went straight into COVID. Everything. I've never made a single payment on my student loans, and then they're gonna forgive it all. I'm just sitting there. I'm like, huh. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I got lucky. I never finished the whole school thing or took out any loans. So.
It was one of those things that our parents were willing to help out, and if I was going to make it, I was going to make it on my own. If I was going to fail, I was going to fail on my own. So
I think that adds to the value of it, right? Because when somebody has to go through, it's the whole reason free money doesn't work. Free money is the most expensive money that you can have because you not only do not understand the opportunity cost, you don't have to weigh any risk evaluations against it because and you're led to believe that it's actually free money. There is no such thing as free money.
No.
Whoever said it's free is getting their money one way or another.
Yeah, and the problem is if you don't understand the finances and you don't develop the character traits of either working really hard to get it or going through the scholarship and, like, doing all the essays and doing all the work and applying all the programs and doing the community and all the crap that you got to do to get the freaking scholarships, actually get your stuff paid for, like that does something to you. In that process, you do differentiate yourself and you do understand what it takes to get the right connections, to be in the right rooms, and how to actually earn somebody's respect, trust, and build a real network. But when you're just like, yeah, I need 50 G's, send me up. And then you're like, yeah, I need a job. Why won't you hire me? Yeah, I need a promotion. Why can't I get it? Like, it doesn't click in your head because your whole life you've never actually been expected to achieve anything.
Yeah.
You're telling me you wanted me to actually intern at your place during the summer? I was busy.
Yeah, I was at parties and stuff. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, I definitely feel that very much on people like coming up. Like, we've had people come in and interview that the first thing they opened with was their degree and all this stuff. I'm like, I don't really, quite frankly, I don't give a shit about that. Like, if you want me to be honest, I'm like, that's cool and all, but I want to know what kind of person you are. I want to know what kind of drive you have. And then I've had people where we sit down there, so do I get to leave right at 5 every day? I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like, literally get out. Like, I can't get those people.
No, you can leave now.
Yeah, like now is actually your time to leave and you're not welcome here. It's like, I just don't, that's not my mentality. That's no one's mentality that's here. And I feel like that's why we've had a different road to success than most. Is just because I think when that work ethic's there, we've all experienced what it takes though to make those, I don't know, those wins. And along the way, when you're always having to do that work for those wins, it just kind of carries over into everything that you do. And I feel like there's a lot of people that now go get a piece of paper and they think that that's their, they come in, they wave
Here's my
that
ticket.
Yeah. And they think that gives them a job. I'm like, that doesn't give you a job here. I promise you that. And
that's the name of the game in entrepreneurism, right? And I think even intrapreneurism now, like to go build a career inside a company, it's not about your resources. How resourceful are you? Mm-hmm. And you learn those things along those ways, and people don't like realize that they're getting that. But it's like, dude, if there's just no instant access to get where you want to go, and you actually have to get creative, and you've actually got to maybe pay to learn a skill, and you've actually got to go out and seek new information. It's not just like, okay, well, you want to go to school? Like, here's some money. If you have to go find a way to gather the funds, like, dude, you're going to learn some lessons.
Yeah.
And then when you get that, then you're going to be extremely deliberate with what you do in your time there. And it's the same thing in a business. You don't have the funding at first, right? Like when you're in startup mode or you're early, you don't have the skills, you don't have whatever. It's like, dude, you go bootstrap mode.
Yeah.
And you measure everything, and when you make a mistake, like, okay, shit, well, we can't do that one again. Like, pivot. Yeah. Oh, we got to create revenue on this one. This one's got to hit. This has got to hit. It's like fail fast and fail cheap. But then you get to a point where your skills and your resources become bigger because you were resourceful and you know how to do and use what you have because you learned all the lessons. Yep. You just give money to people and they never knew how to actually make it. Like, dude, they're just going to lose it again.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, though, is like feeling, I've talked about some of our hardest spots in our growth have been some of our busiest spots. And it's because our structure is different. Our whole business model is different. A lot of people have told us it wouldn't work. And I mean, it's gotten us to here so far. And, but it is crazy. I feel like I've learned more in the last 2.5 years than I have the last 18 years of my life. And it's, I don't know, I think in the overcoming those, I don't know if I want to call them lessons or like obstacles that you face, you learn a lot more about finances really quick. You learn about those things, and you learn on different things that you're doing in business. You're like, hey, that really didn't work. But it's also when you keep doubling down on yourself over and over and over and over again, where when we're talking about business owners on pulling back, like I'm just not one to pull back on something. I'm like, hey, you know what? We have to pivot a little bit, but now hey, we're doubling down this direction. And it keeps going. But it's that one failure that you have. I feel like so many people like quit on like, what if I got a job over here? And it's like you've failed. Like you've already put something else in your head. Like you've quit in your head. And once you've put that in your head, you're done. And it's so much of like, this is my only path. I'm going to make my path this way. But there's going to be things that you have to overcome. There's going to be things that you have to figure out to progress all the way up that path. And it's not going to be an easy road. But like I said, right when I started in a bank, right out the gate was like, hey, yeah, we're not giving you a line and everything. I was like, I'll show these people. I was like, just watch. I was like, that's going to be your worst mistake you ever made. I'm like, I promise you that. But it's one of those things that, I mean, 5 years from now, I'm going to walk back in that bank and I'm going to say, hey, I want all that money out. And there's going to be a lot of it in there. I'll be like, you should have given me that business line when I started.
You just got to make enough money to buy the bank.
Yeah. But it's like, it's one of those deals that the person that can believe in yourself the most is you. So I don't rely, that banker telling me no didn't mess with me at all. Like,
yeah, I've actually like studied that a lot with my reps and just like myself, what leads, you know, to better success, especially in a business or in a career or athletically or whatever it is. I think it's just a lot of people hear the cliche term like, oh, extreme ownership. Like I need to be responsible. I need to count my wins and count my losses. Like I need to like kind of take everything. But it's like very few people actually take ownership, like legitimately deeply are like, it's not my company. It's not the vehicle. It's me. Mm-hmm. Like if the vehicle isn't there, like you need to mod it. Like you need to adapt your vehicle and it even in your space. Like it's not like the mortgage vehicle. If you can't win there, like, dude, I promise you somebody is. If it's real estate, like I promise you somebody's doing it. If it's solar, it's sales, or it's marketing, like somebody is getting their vehicle to win and it has nothing to do with that. Like it's you. Like, and until you can really, really grasp that and like there's just gaps of information that you don't have and you're not willing to accept, it's going to be a really, really hard ride for you.
Like in that real estate space, it's like when they're like, man, it's slow. I'm like, why is it every time I drive from Kearney to Liberty, there's a new house being built on the north side of 35 every single time.
And whenever people say stuff like that in those spaces, I think you can always tell, like, okay, are you actually good or are you a wannabe? Because it's like, dude, the killers kill in every environment and they actually have the skill set. Like, dude, anybody can sell a house when interest rates are 2.5 and there's new developments all over the place.
Well, that's why everyone jumped in the real estate market like overnight.
And they think they're good and they have all this validation, but it's like, dude, did you ever actually acquire the skill sets necessary to go win? It's like, now, dude, when I do business, like, I really want to know, like, have you gone through any types of turns? What markets have you done? Like, what have you done in your career? Like, Ed Milet talks about all the time, like, dude, 10-year people want to be with other 10-year people, not because, like, time necessarily means anything, but over the cyclical periods of economic downturns or, like, you've either had to prove that you actually have the skills you say you do or you were exposed.
Yeah. It's funny. We were at a house event, like housewarming deal, and there was a bunch of people there, and all these girls were there that were similar in age to Madison and everything. And one of them starts like asking what everyone's doing, and one of them's like, Madison's like, yeah. Or one of the girls like, yeah, Madison sells real estate. And then the girl's like, is that your full-time job? I was like, we'll just keep our mouth shut on this. Like, it's just like kind of one of those funny things that there's so many people now just. Everyone wants to be a part-time real estate agent. Like,
oh, dude, I have such a funny story on that.
It's cake money. Like, anyone can do it. And I got my real estate license, and that is a disservice to people buying houses. When Madison acquires clients all the time, and now they're friends of hers and things like that, but they're like, well, we were working with so-and-so, and they were still at their other job, so we couldn't go look at this house on Thursday, so we never even got to put an offer in. And it's like, and then I was wanting to make an offer on this house and go look at this house on Saturday, but they went to the Lake of the Ozarks, so we didn't get to go look at that house. And it's like, these people are putting you on the furthest back burner possible because it's a part-time deal. That's like, they have their main job, they have their social life, they have all these other things. And then if they have time to show you a house, they'll go show you a house. And they're trying to move maybe like 1 or 2 houses a year to give them vacation money. And it's like, work with someone that's their full-time job. And then it's like, then you're going in making offers and you never get them accepted. Madison had someone that they're like, we've made like 20 offers and our agent just really isn't like, we don't know what's happening. And
there's so many bums in freaking business, dude.
And they work with Madison. First house they made an offer on, Madison calls the agent, goes over everything. She's like, I want to make sure you call me before like you accept the offer. We need to like, tell me what I have to do to give me a chance to get it. They get the first house they make an offer on after they've made 20 offers on other houses. But it's because the agent they had before is a part-time deal, writing bullshit offers, didn't make the relationship with these other agents and just didn't know what they were doing.
I hear about all kinds of horror stories with lenders and with real estate agents. I'm like, dude, where'd you find this guy? They're like, oh, it's my friends, whatever. I'm like, dude, and this is another part of like the financial literacy aspect. Like people don't understand, dude, there's a huge difference between like having your Series 6 and Series 7 and being a financial advisor and like being somebody who knows about money. There's a huge difference between being a licensed realtor and being like a real professional real estate professional. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a completely different experience. And if people don't know what they're actually looking at, they don't know go to do the inspections, they don't go do the final walkthroughs, like they don't need who to bring in for their inspections, who's trusted, how to negotiate. It's like, dude, you are going to have such a terrible home buying experience or a terrible lending experience. Somebody's like, oh, you're 1099. They're just like, yeah, dude, you'll get approved for whatever. And then all of a sudden, like, you put all this emotion behind a home and it falls through. Dude, if you had more financial, like, you would vet who you work with better. If more people understood, like, dude, they would ask these hard questions because most of these, like, dude, they don't even know.
Yeah.
Like, they just have the license to go fill out the paperwork.
Well, they were instructing people. I know a lot of realtors instructed, like, hey, we got waivers for this, this, and this. We don't even got to get this stuff checked out. We're good to go. We can get you in like 7 days. I'm like, what if there's like a really bad problem in that house and you don't know about it?
Yeah,
you are tanked.
There's a bunch of that happening, and it's just, I mean, people looking out for their pocketbook over an actual client of their best interest. And we're starting to work with a lot of real estate agents on their marketing and on their video stuff and a lot of these other types of processes and things that they have. And we were talking, I was talking to one of them last week, and we're going over his videos and going over all this stuff. And he goes, what do you think I could change about a lot of this stuff? I go, if I were you, I'd be more honest on it. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, I'm like, you're definitely an honest person, 100%. But I go on your videos, I go, point out the bad things on houses. It doesn't have to be all pluses. I go, if you have 2,000 videos out there and nobody has ever heard you say a negative comment about a house, they're going to know you're full of shit.
Yeah.
Like, Madison goes into houses, and it was like something when she first got into selling that she would go in and like, houses were all great. Like, she's like, you don't want to go in and say the bad things about it. I'm like, when we sold cars, I go, the reason we sold a lot of cars is because if someone called on the phone, they're like, what's this truck like? Most people are used to like, bro, it is the nicest truck on the lot. Like, you have never seen a truck nicer. Like, and
It drives so smooth with its 8-inch lift.
They go through like this whole thing, and I'm like, that's like what they hear every single time. They call, and I'm like, yeah, it's got like a scratch on the back quarter panel, blah blah. Tires like 50%. I go, they could probably be replaced, but we priced the truck accordingly because the tires like, you probably have another like 10, 15,000 miles out of them, blah blah. And they're like, okay, like, they're almost like kind of shocked when they heard like the honest truth about something. But then it was when they came up there, they would sit there, and because I was honest to them on the phone, they're like, what do you think would be a good truck to buy? And then all of a sudden your expertise is, they respect it.
Dude, and I literally it's funny you're bringing this up. I literally just had a coaching call with a rep this morning. He was asking something about his close. I'm like, dude, in the closing sequence, trucks, security, solar, whatever it is, like, people are so hyper aware. Their biggest thing is fear of loss, right? Like, there's going to be something about this that I don't know that wasn't disclosed. Like, what if I get screwed? What if yada, yada, yada? What if I buy this and it's not what I thought it was? If you can pull the pressure off and create an environment that, like, you're willing to say, dude, there's a scratch on the bottom panel, but, like, dude, other than that, like, this is a sick ride. They are then going to give you every single one of their real concerns to actually get to a buying decision, because they really don't care what the bad information is. They just want to know, if I ask, are you going to tell me what it actually is, so that then I can make an informed decision? Because, dude, if you're not bankrolling and you're buying a used vehicle, dude, you expect something. I mean, dude, like, in certain price ranges, like, dude, with all honesty, something is going to be not 100%.
Most of the time, someone traded that vehicle in for a reason.
I mean, my truck was brand new with less than 300 miles on it. I was pulling in the parking lot gate and everything, and the gate closed and drags the whole side of my truck. I was like, damn. And I got it fixed and everything, but it was one of those things that things happen to vehicles all the time. It does. We were selling used vehicles. I told people, it's not a brand new car. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to make you drive to Kearney and you show up here and I'm selling you on the phone that's a brand new car, and when you get here, you're pissed. It's the same thing as in the real estate space. So many real estate agents walk into every single house like, oh my God, this is the best house I've ever walked into. You're full of shit. Like, you're full of shit.
At $200,000, really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But it's Madison goes in and she's like, you need to fix this. Could be fixed. This needs to be fixed. She's like, there's a crack in the foundation, but they fixed it correctly. Yeah. And they did their injection molds. They did all this stuff. it's fixed right, this, like you could probably do this here, and going over all this stuff. And it's like that person now feels at ease. They actually have somebody that's an expert in the space helping them. Same thing with a vehicle. If it has a scratch on the back bumper and I say, hey, you know what, we do have a guy that can fix that, maybe X amount of dollars, whatever. If that's something that is crucial to you to have fixed, I'll see what we can do on it. Somebody, it might not be a big deal. Like, it's a truck. You may say, hey, I'm going to use this as a truck, and I don't care that it has a scratch right there. So every buyer is different in all sales, but it's also that like honesty level that I feel like so many people have gotten into sales and they're so gimmicky of like everything has to be perfect that any sane person knows that not everything's perfect all the time.
And it builds credibility. So like in the sales industry, that's one of the only industries to where you have the opportunity to like take it, and whatever you do with it, you can build your own credibility. You can build your own brand. Like people they go to a doctor and they trust a doctor because they're told to and because they got a degree. And when in these professions like real estate, where it's so easy just to go get a license, you know, you have to be the one that stands above it. And that's why those people do so much better in those times of downturn.
Yeah.
I know I picked up my mortgage license right when we started here. So did Dane. And we both picked up our mortgage license. Some were like, hey, we'll do it.
That was like me using it as a brokering of a deal. I was not
for me. I'm like, man, I could try it. The first person someone sent in a deal to my name, Dane and I at this point we're running around, just us. And I'm like, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna pass you along to someone else. I'm like, they're gonna take care of your deal. They're like, well, don't you want the money? I'm like, I would love the money, but I'm like, I can't give you my time to take care of you correctly, and that's not fair to you. Because I'm like, for me to actually sit down, go over everything, to get you into a house, I'm like, I just can't do that. So I passed it along to someone that could. Luckily, she was taken care of, got a home, everything. But it was at that point I was like, we were invested in this, and for me to do that part-time on a lot of individuals' largest purchase. It's
a disservice.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not fair to you or myself.
I wouldn't want that person.
No.
Nobody's going to say like, yeah, you know what, I want the part-time real estate agent that doesn't have fucking time for me. That's who I want to work with.
Yeah. I can only call him after 7. That's who.
It's kind of like, I feel like the bigger you go in anything, you understand, like, dude, whether it's athletics, like if you're a basketball player, like, dude, you probably have a shooting coach, you probably have like nutrition, you probably have, you know, these NBA players like have all these different guys that are like super elite at something. When you're in business, it's like maturing in business is really recognizing, dude, I don't have to have all the answers, and it's literally impossible to do so, but I will pay for speed and I will pay for effectivity. Like,
yes.
There's a whole reason, like, your guys' amazing studio that, like, I'm coming to you, like, hey, I would love you guys to host my podcast because
near future. Pew, pew, pew.
That's right.
First drop here.
But it's a thing of recognizing, like, dude, it's not in my wheelhouse. It's more profitable for me to focus on what actually I'm really, really freaking good at and let people that are really good at this part of the phase do it and pay them appropriately to get it done.
It is crazy how many business owners we speak with that have no earthly idea that concept right there.
Oh, you see it all stems from a scarcity mindset. It's like, well, I need a referral kickback. I need this. And it's like, dude, if you develop real high level situations where you take care of a referral from somebody at a super high level, well, that person always remembers who sent them.
Yeah.
And they're going to go bring more business back because they're like, that dude's a stud. He took care of me in this faculty, but then he has this huge network of just like unbelievable people that they can refer to. Like, you're always going to send your business that way. And people just don't understand like that quadratic exponential effect because they're scarce. So like, I'm not getting my piece of that pie. And it's like, dude, well, that's because you don't know dick about marketing. So you don't deserve.
You don't need every single pie.
It is hilarious on how many business owners like we've spoken with that we're like, hey, you need social media management. You need all these things. Like, we offer social media management. We have social media ads. We have SEO work. We have website design. We have content creation. We have all these different assets or different facets of our company. And I remember we're on a call one day with a guy, and he's like, well, I do it all myself. Bro, you haven't posted in 3 months. You're not doing it. Don't say that you're doing it yourself because it's just not getting done at all. Like, just say, hey, nobody does it here.
And if you were doing it, what are you missing out on
with
that time that you could be doing something that would improve your business?
But are you a social media expert? The guy barely even knew how to post. And it's like, we have a lot of companies that we work with that we've sat down with and we go over all the numbers and like, well, I could probably just hire a full-time marketing person. I go, if you can find somebody that has everything that our company has in one person, I want to know, because I'm hiring that person. I go, because that person is a unicorn. I go, that person.
I will pay them more than you're about to pay them.
I will pay them twice what you're going to pay, probably 3 times what you're going to pay them, because it's a unicorn. And it's that person, the value that that person brings to the table, if you do find them, is going to be worth 5-6 times what our marketing is, what that person is going to deem to be paid.
I think I always I love to study like Ray Dalio, Bezos, Musk, especially Dalio and Kenny Griffin, like these big hedge fund guys. But I was reading a thing, it's pretty interesting on Bezos. And I think you see just a lot of people in businesses get so stemmed, like I have to own everything, I have to operate everything, I have to like in-house all these different things that you're saying. But like, dude, the biggest companies in the world and the wealthiest people in the world honestly own like a very like small fraction of these companies that you think they run. Like Bezos owns like 13% of Amazon. So that means on the build up, he gave equity cuts out to all these different people or funds or VC or firms that had the skill sets that Amazon needed to go to that level. And now he's the richest dude in the world.
Yeah,
It worked
13%.
out. It worked out. And it's like all of these companies, Apple, right? Like, dude, I'm sure people think they have their own in-house. Dude, they're hiring the best marketing firms in the world and paying them unbelievable amounts. And I'm sure they have people on salary in-house doing it. But like, their game isn't marketing. It's product development. Like the best people go find the best or in their level of what they can, and they get it done for them.
Yeah. With a lot of we have accounts now that we go sit down with that we are dealing with their marketing team. That they want to hire an outside agency that can man all these things, but they have in-house marketing people too that we work directly with, and they have different marketing agencies in different areas doing different things. We're not the only marketing agency that they work with. And it's crazy, like when you start getting into some of these higher scale accounts, that I'm thinking about just the marketing dollars they're spending between us and all these employees that they have and the other marketing agencies. I'm like, these budgets get astronomical really quick. But then you also see the driving forces of these companies. That's why they see quarter over quarter growth, is you see the money that they're dumping into building a brand, the money they're dumping into content, the money they're dumping into all these different barrels really of saying, hey, these are what we have to stack up to make it all work. And then you have mom and pop over here. They're like, hey, I'm not spending $1. Marketing, no. Like,
well, it's interesting because you see when you really like study businesses and how they're going and why they're thriving and doing different things, you kind of have to like break it up. There's always you have to have the direct response to stuff, that's like creating dollars now. But then there's also like at a point that you can only do that at such a level where you now need to do some of the brand. Like if you want to go to certain levels,
yes.
and it all depends on where you want to go with whatever it is that you're doing. But the strategy changes, from 1 million to 3 million, 5 to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to $1 billion. Like you have to play things and spend money for stuff that's going to not pay you back for 10, 15 years. Mm-hmm. And like investing's that way too, where it's like, right, like I could do this right now and dump it into my business and it creates this money. But like as an individual, I also have to be aware that my return in this property today might not be what it is in my business, developing my sales force in my company or whatever. But I also don't want to actively be involved in this my entire life. Yeah. So I need to create those things that are like paying out drips later that are stacking up at a lower return. Cause you have to really recognize like where am I spending and what's the end result of what it's going to create for me.
And I think, that's something that makes us way different in the space is if you see 99.9% of marketing companies marketing that is rolling out, it is all direct conversion. 100% of it. Realistically, you see a marketing ad, it's direct conversion. I came in, we were playing a long-term game because most of the time, like, there's no one that's really branded themselves in the market around here.
Yeah.
So you run into 100 people on the street and ask them if they know a marketing company. Majority of them are going to say no. And it's one of those things that I'm like, why did no one ever like brand themselves in the space? Like, why has no one ever taken like to having a name in the space? It's one of those things you say, name a fast food restaurant. You can name fast food restaurants. You can name a gym. You can name a car dealership. You can name like everything, but you hit marketing company, people are like, I don't know. Like
I typed in on Google a marketing company.
I feel like that should be a household name in an area. I feel like you should own a geographical area. And it's, so when we hit the marketing space, we have came at it at a full branding move all the time. Like our ads are majority all branding. They're not call to action ads. They're branding. Our faces are on them all. Like that is what it is. Most of the time you don't even see marketing companies with ads with anyone's face on them that's at the company. They're hiding behind a computer somewhere. Like it's super graphic designed up and everything. It's just very generic. Like it's noise that no one wants to listen to. And the space is oversaturated with that. And it's like, we're going to come in and be over here. And it's that branding move, I think in the long term. I mean, we've just seen it in 24 months of doing it, that it is like people call us and like, are the people in the ads and everything and people that work there? Like, yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, like you probably saw my ad today. Like that was like what it is. And people reach out to us all the time. They're like, hey, yeah, we see your podcast. Like I want people to feel comfortable being here with the company, with the podcast, with everything. But it's just something that I feel is so weird that like so many people don't want to do the long-term play in business. I'm like, what's your goal in 10 years? Well, I don't know. I don't think 10 years ahead. Like, wouldn't it make great sense to invest in yourself now to be so much further in 10 years? And like my 5-year goal was to everyone knows a marketing company. That was my only goal. I'm like, if I just want people, if I go walk up someone on the street, I'm like, you know a marketing company? They're like, Moss Marketing Group. Awesome. We did our job. Like, just where they know one.
That's a huge thing. I'm actually like, I talk about all the time, and something I'm like really, really deliberate about. People spend more time like planning a vacation than they do the next 5 years of their life. And like what fulfillment, what their purpose and what their passion. Like I spend money every year to go to a place and spend an entire day or a weekend deliberately thinking like, what is most important to me right now over the next 12 months, 5 years, and 10 years? Because it changes all the time. But I think this anxiety epidemic that's going on, dude, I'd be super anxious too if I didn't know what the freak I was doing in my life, and every single thing I did in my day was just like whatever happened to me because I'm not attacking anything. But if you don't know where you're going, like what can you attack?
Yeah, you're either going to be proactive or reactive. And I feel like the people that are proactive on what they're doing, like I think the funny thing is when you have someone that's like, hey, I don't want to do marketing. I'm like really iffy on it right now and everything. I just like funds and everything. Then you go on Facebook and they're on vacation somewhere. I go, yeah, and your success is really the top priority for you. I'm like, I go on vacations and shit like that, but it's also like we're doing well. Like things are going the right direction. But I could take a lot more money right now and I could have a fucking badass sports car. I could have a boat and shit like that. But I'm like, instead of having boat payments and high-end car payments and stuff like that, I'm dumping it all back into marketing for us. I'd rather have ads running for Moss Marketing Group all month to where people know our brand instead of having a boat.
And you guys could see like the passion that you just kind of like put that statement out with is because you do have something that you're working towards. And like you guys are happy when you're fulfilling a purpose and striving towards a goal. So many people, dude, it blows my mind how many people like, I'll sit down to an interview with a college student. It's like, okay, well, look, if you were to learn this sales skill set, this is one of my interview questions. If you were to learn this sales skill set, I'd bring you on. Why would you give everything? How does this play into your 5 and 10 year plan? If you were to actually become a master of sales, how is that going to elevate or give you an advantage to go where you want to go? And almost like 50% of the time, it's, well, I don't even know where I want to go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, dude, then you're probably not going to work that hard for me because when it gets hard, if you don't have a reason to win here, then you're not going to do whatever it takes. But if you know I'm going to be the best doctor or neurosurgeon in the world because I know how to communicate with people better than anybody in the medical space, well, dude, you're going to bust your ass for 4 months out there with us in the summer.
Yeah. And that, I mean, it speaks volumes across individuals, businesses. I think you see it a lot. And
those goals don't even have to be like huge. Like we meet every Monday morning now and go over our goals for the week, personal, business, what we need to accomplish. I mean, it's even as little as getting up at a certain time.
And that's something I was guilty of.
That builds confidence too. Because when you do that and you hit it, like Mylette talks about this, I love this.
Yeah.
You know, self-confidence is literally just how often you keep commitments to yourself.
Yep. The promises to yourself are the most important promises you make. And it's I was guilty of when I started this. I get very sucked into the business side of it, and we lose sight of everything that's going on outside of it. But the outside are those personal promises that make business better. And I was thinking about it over the weekend. That's normally when my head runs the most crazy. And then like Monday morning, I'm like, yeah, this is then I'm like Monday morning, I'm like, you know what? I don't even want a meeting about business at all. I'm like, I want to go over what everyone's personal goals are, where you want to be this week, this month, end of year, next year, like all these things. Like I want to make everyone's life so great around us and build a brand that everyone's proud to be a part of. But that comes with everyone doing these personal goals. If everyone around here is keeping promises to themselves, this company will be 10 times bigger than what I imagine. And I think you guys do a very good job at that on, just from seeing the caliber of people that followed me on Instagram from your reels. That other morning I got on Instagram, I'm like 40 new followers. I'm like, all Vivint manager. But there's a quality of person that is there, and you can see it. Like,
yeah,
you can tell they're confident people that are in the gym, that are taking care of themselves, they're doing the right things, but it's building a following that when you have that group of people, somebody wants to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's kind of just teeing off. I love that you guys obviously do that. That's honestly pretty freaking cool that you guys bring your company together. And that's like something that we really do in our culture. We want everybody to know as much about, and I think workspaces kind of try to create this, like there's like a separation. But your work is honestly such a huge part of your life that if you're not like family with the coworkers that you can't really rely on each other, like, dude, you are super hindered in where you can actually go. Yeah. I'm like so motivated when I go home and I see my daughter and my wife, and it's like, dude, my wife doesn't work. It's like, dude, my daughter's 8 months. Like, she can't even feed herself, right? I recognize like how dependent they are, and then I think, okay, I'm completely able to take care of them, and then I start to think about my reps, and like, dude, I get emotional thinking about like, dude, I owe these people an environment where they can dominate because they have to take care of their spouse and their family. And if we don't have this place where they just feel so fulfilled and like this isn't a unit of camaraderie, like their family's going to suffer. Like their little Oakland and their home is going to suffer because I didn't give them enough. Yeah. And like, dude, that's when you're like, I got to go big, not because I need the Rari, I need the house. Like, I got to go so big because this umbrella has to go so wide that he can be here to provide for his family at this level. And if I got to create $1 billion opportunity to provide for all these people I care about, like, that's what it's going to take. And then you just like turbojets.
Then you just keep turning it up because then there's another umbrella that's being made.
Because then they have people that they care about that they want to provide that opportunity for.
I think
when they see you do it, they that translates.
But that's definitely a lead by example kind of deal. And we were talking about it, that I've started going to the gym in the morning, stuff like that. I'm working on eating better, and I've been guilty of I don't eat very well. And I got out of the gym space for a while and been getting better going to the gym. But I'm like, I want everyone to go to the gym in the morning. It's just something that like, is everyone going to? No. But I'm also not going to tell someone to be a hypocrite about it. Like, that is the thing I hate the most, is like, I hate when you get these trainers that weigh 350 pounds. Like, I'm a personal trainer. I'm like, not listening to you, bro. Like, same thing with the financial advisors we were talking about.
Are you rich? No. Yeah. Okay, cool. I don't want to listen to you.
Yeah, like,
how'd you manage your 60?
Yeah, I have a lot more money than you, but you're going to tell me how to manage my money. Yeah, great idea. So it's just one of those things that when you're leading by example, that somebody comes, sits in front of me, and they're like, hey, I'm a billionaire, and I manage like, I've done all this stuff, and I came from nothing. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to shut up. I'm going to listen to you for the next hour. Like, I want to hear what that person has to say, and that I'm going to follow by example. And it's the same thing as if it comes to personal life. If you don't take care of yourself, personal life, well, and do all those right things, people around you don't have that. Like, people want to be like you in business, but they also want to be like, they want to follow somebody that they respect in all aspects of life.
Even more so. Yeah. People want to do what you do in business astronomically more if your personal life and your family, your spouse relationship, your family relationship is lights out. Because it's like, dude, you can have all the money in the world, but if your family's suffering because of what it takes to do it and the way that you achieve it in the however it is that you operate it, it's like, dude, nobody cares.
Yeah.
I don't want to give up my wife and my daughter to make $1 billion. Like, I don't think that that's the only way to get there, but it's like, I would never do that.
I've definitely watched people that have a lot more money than me.
A ton of people.
Easy, bud. Easy. Everyone's got more money than you. No,
I met this guy freaking picking up trash outside. He has more money than you.
No, but it's
Got a
like
401k. Good for him.
I know a lot of people that have a lot more money than me that have sacrificed so much to be where they're at and jeopardized relationships with their spouse, with their kids, with everything. And it was something that was one of the big reasons I stepped away from the car business, was what it was doing to my relationship with Madison, with my relationship with Dre, my dad, like all these things. Like, it jeopardized all of it for money. And it wasn't even that great. Like, it was good money, but it wasn't like anything to write home about.
And I think it's really, really important though that like we for anybody who's like listening to this at this time, I hate when people then they go jump to like the opposite of the spectrum. That was like, I'm gonna stay at home with my wife all freaking damn day and chill with my kids, and we're gonna be broke because I love them so damn much. And it's like, no, dude, like that's also a huge freaking disservice to your family.
Yes.
Like, if you're not prepared for emergency situations, you don't have a really high level of living. Like, there's gonna be a level of sacrifice. It's then just like when you make an investment, when you see an opportunity to make new money or your current opportunity, it's like, does it fit the lens of like what me and my family is willing to do for the output that's going to give? How long is that going to take? What time does it look like? What's the stress on our family? Is it worth it or not?
Yeah.
And like, you can make a calculated decision about those opportunities. But I hate when people like jump to the far end of the spectrum.
I definitely think there's
like,
people that go from like one side to the complete other.
Yeah.
Like,
which the reality is like, it's always a balancing act in between.
Well, most of the people that do that, I would say, they go from complete opposite. They do it once again and go straight back to the complete opposite, and then just completely leave their family.
I really don't dig eating the ramen noodles all the time. I'm going to go back to eating steak. I'm going back to doing that.
Yeah.
And then it's like, there's a way to, like you said, there's a balance in that. But it's something that there's like a threshold to, that you can be successful and make money and take that path of growth and have the turbochargers on it. But sometimes people are like there's a lot of nights if I go home and Madison falls asleep, then I'll get my laptop out and I start working. But like, if she's awake and we're talking, I've gotten to where I put my phone in the bathroom. I don't want my phone on me. Like, I give her that time when I'm there.
Yeah.
And it's making those small adjustments all the time. That could I go home every night, get my laptop out and work? Yeah, there's always more work to be done. But where does that put me differently in 5 to 10 years? Could business be a little bit better at that point? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Or could it ruin everything else I have in a personal life and actually end up making it to where some people that follow, that respect everything I have going, then don't have the respect because I sacrificed everything on a personal level, and they're like, you know what, I don't want to be like him.
He actually, I don't even know. I didn't know if he talked to us last time I was here or not, but he came and spoke to Vivint. I actually got David's like really good buddies with him, so I got David to get him to come, which was cool. I didn't really get to meet him that much, but I was responsible for it. You know what's up?
Mic drop.
Yeah.
If he could rip this thing off the wall, he'd throw
I
it.
booked my lap. What's up? No, but he talked about something in his speech, and not to like get preachy, but there's a scripture in my faith. It's like, be anxiously engaged in a good cause. And like, honestly, genuinely, from like every fiber of me believe, like, dude, as human beings, we are meant to become everything that we can. Like, we weren't just put here in our families and on this earth, and like, everything isn't just like perfectly fit for the only place in the known universe that we know that there's life of intelligent beings at this level. For us not to go develop as much as possible and be rigorously progressing. And he talks about this thing, regardless of anybody's faith, but he's like, yeah, I believe when I die at some point, I'm going to get to face judgment, however that appears to you. And I'm going to have to face the reality of who I could have been if I would have constantly done everything that I could. And I think that's like a real thing. That fulfillment comes when you're moving the needle and when you're doing that. And I think whether, it's divine or the universe, whatever you believe, I honestly believe there is a lot of divine power behind it. But when you put out that I am willing to struggle, I am willing to try, I am willing to fight, like, that happiness, that joy, and that progress, like, is going to come.
Yeah.
It's going to feel so much better when you get it.
Yeah, and no matter where you end up, like, dude, like, everybody has a different line that they're going to end at. And, like, the end line doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
It's just like, dude, are you moving it?
Before, I was moving in line in work, but I was moving another line the opposite way.
Yeah.
And it was something that, even though that top line was moving, I was not happy. Like, and of course you're chasing that line thinking you're going to catch happiness somewhere in there. And it's like a never ending, that line's always moving. You're never going to catch that happiness. And then you restructure everything. And like now I am so happy with, I don't know where the journey's going, but it's like, I'm part of it. Like, and it's so much more fulfilling on every aspect possible.
Have you guys ever read The Gap and the Gain?
I don't think, no.
I haven't.
Super good book, but it's kind of all the whole book is on that principle of like, dude, so often we get caught up in like, where do we need to go? And I just talked about earlier, goals are super, super important, but sometimes we forget to like look back, dude. If 10-year-old, 18, 21, 22, 24-year-old saw me and knew where we were at now, would he like shit his pants?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, hey, dude, sometimes we've accomplished some pretty cool stuff, and it's like, dude, recognize and take some pride and some happiness. Like, yeah, go shoot for the stars again, but don't ever like lose sight of, dude, we've moved the needle. Like, we've had some wins.
Yeah. That's the other cool thing I look at with the podcast is there's actually a guy that I know from the gym that was roommates with Andy Friselis in college. And I remember when I first started, I was working out, we were all working out every morning together. I start working out by myself right when I get out of the dealership. I see him there every morning.
Once there was X amount of us, it was like trying to use the bench rack. It got a little weird.
So Dre starts working out with me. And
Dre's like, damn it, everybody's putting on all these plates. I got to take them all off. Like,
so my shoulders are going to be jacked.
So then Dre's there, Dalton's there, Logan's there. And this group just keeps growing, and it's growing really fast. I'm on the treadmill one morning. I'm talking to him. He goes, all I can tell you is, he goes, document what you do. He goes, that's one of Andy's biggest like regrets is documenting everything along his journey. And he goes, because it grew so fast and he was so involved with it. And I think a lot of times that's really hard to do, of documenting everything along a journey. I think the podcast is a great avenue that
snapshots.
It's like little snapshots every single week that I even look back at the first one. I was like, holy cow. I'm like, just us as people, like all of it. The progression is over 28, 29 episodes. How far that needle has moved so fast that I think it's going to be cool when there's 200 episodes and you're like looking back and you're like, we're doing this shit. Like, this is cool. And like, this is where we started.
That is really cool.
And we're going to do the same thing with Tyler's podcast.
Let's go. Yeah. Mine needs some level up. Needs some MMG magic on it.
So we will definitely be tagging that below. And I think we've definitely ran this one a little long. I think Ricky just ditched the marker to even write it. But any final thoughts? We could go on for hours with Tyler, so there's definitely going to be future podcasts with you and stuff like that. But
I freaking love hanging out with you guys. I could just come and kick it here. That's the problem.
That's what we did yesterday.
I know, I did. I did just come
talked about podcasting, talked for like 2.5 hours, did podcast, have to move to the next day.
I guess just leaving it on a note of like something somebody can take away. I think, dude, the biggest thing I could ever tell is just like, dude, in abundance, just move, have fun, like go, know where you're going, and then just adjust it along the way.
Yeah.
It really is so much more simple than I think people leave out to be. Like, oh, I got to have all these stuff like figured out. It's like, dude, you don't even have to like know necessarily, but you need to put a plan in place. If you don't know, to go find a plan. Like, and you got to move to do that.
Moving. I think just if people move, there's that freeze we were talking about earlier. Don't freeze.
Yeah, nothing happened because people think when they freeze that they stay in the same spot, but there is no, like, dude, you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. So just go execute wherever you're at, and you'll get better, like, no matter what when you're trying.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Dre?
Nah, summed it up pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. This is what we live for. Key Ricky.
Thanks for listening to the M3 Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Want to learn more? Check us out on Instagram at Moss Marketing Group, on Facebook at Moss Marketing 58, or on our website at mossmarketinggroup.com.